Thanks for tuning in. I'm Kyla Gergen from HXGN TV. Shift Excellence features the technology of J5, which was acquired by Hexagon in January 2019. Scott Miller, VP of the Engineered Outcomes Group at InSource Solutions and an expert in safe, efficient plant operations, will share with us today why he is a strong advocate of Shift Excellence. Thanks so much for joining us, Scott.
Thank you.
Yeah, glad to have you here. So tell us about what it means to drive Shift Excellence.
So Shift Excellence is about helping plants, helping organizations figure out how to move data more effectively. So many manufacturing organizations today, whether it's a water wastewater organization or a food and beverage organization, use paper. They literally use paper today to capture data to be able to transfer that. And then the handover process from a supervisor to a supervisor is limited because one, they probably don't have that conversation, and two, it's captured on data on the paper, but it never makes it any further than that. So there's no action that's taken as a result of that.
Difficult to analyze that too.
That's exactly right.
So what are the pain points you see most frequently with your customers that can be addressed by Hexagon PPM's J5 Shift Operations Management Solution?
So there are so many areas of opportunity, to be frank. There are a lot of areas you can look at. A couple I would rise to my mind initially though are, there's a lot of data that's gathered, but it's in many cases the wrong data. It's historically just something they've done. It's what they've had to do because it's part of what they've done. They've never gone back and looked at why they do it. And then potentially it's also the data is inaccurate. So people are capturing data manually. They're looking at things, maybe jotting it down at the wrong time, if you will. So that first component is just the lack of real data, if you will. And that transitions to the second piece, which is because there's no good, solid, accurate data, there is no actionable information. So information requires data with context. If you don't have information that's actionable, then things aren't taking place. So a lot of the pain an organization sees is a lack of action. People are doing a lot of stuff, but they're not doing stuff with it, if you will. And then transition from there, a lot of organizations really struggle with getting people to transition or change or adopt new technologies, new actions. They recognize the need to move forward, but getting people who, frankly, in operations, we hire folks that they like routines. They like compliance. They like to do the same thing day in and day out. To get them to transition and do something new is generally sort of difficult. So the ability to give them a tool, a process that makes that much easier is definitely a benefit. And then the fourth component is most of these situations, organizations have just numerous processes, tremendous amount of paper that they actually are collecting data against. The thought for them to have to figure out how to manage that and or convert and transition over is just simply daunting for them. So an ability to be able to make sure they can manage and administer that effectively is a real benefit with what J5 does.
Okay, so tell us about how InSource and J5 work together to alleviate some of those pain points that you're talking about.
That's great. So if I start with the data component, part of the process on the front is really understanding how do you make sure you're collecting the correct data. If you think in terms of the stuff that you're bringing together, the stuff that you're putting on paper, there's the opportunity to be able to replicate that. So I can take and within the J5 application, simply replicate that piece of paper. One of the nice things about it is it can look very, very similar to what they're used to on their clipboard. That's good, but you can also adapt. So it gives you the ability to take a step back and look at, do we really need all this data? Or am I capturing it in the right form? Or am I doing it at the right time? Can I make that a little more efficient? And then the third component is there the potential to transform it. So some of that data probably exists and it's collected automatically in one form or another, but it's not being extracted and put into the right context. So can you possibly transform what the people are actually doing by presenting the data in real time to allow them to do that? So that process of working them through, maybe it's appropriate to replicate, probably better to adapt, but if you're prepared and have the organizational capability, let's transform and see if we can't take you to the next level. That's a lot of what J5 brings to the table in terms of being able to engage people and see that benefit come through.
It's almost like zoom out to zoom in.
Very much so, that's exactly right. Yeah, get the big picture to be able to understand how to improve as you zoom back in.
So what can customers expect to change after implementing J5 solutions? What are they going to see a difference in?
Significant reduction in time taken to do the job, if you will. So between operators, supervisors, just simply the amount of time it takes them to do their work will go down. Much greater increase in the capability of being able to interact. So now that I have information as opposed to just some data, I can actually have a conversation with someone. In many cases, the supervisors alone, they're seeing substantial increases in the amount of time and the ability to interact with the operators where they haven't been able to do that in the past because they're going back to an office to enter information, or they're going back to a location that they need a Wi-Fi signal for, if you will, to try to make sure they can capture something on an Excel spreadsheet. So a significant amount of time improvement in time.
Okay, oftentimes starting a digital transformation journey can be seen as daunting. I mean, let's face it, for some people that
Yes.
sounds like it's not a good time. But what would you say to companies who don't know where to start? They want to do it because they hear success stories with others, but they don't know where to start.
It's a great question. One of the questions that came up in our panel this morning was about pilot purgatory. How do you get something started, but actually get out of that pilot phase, get out of the purgatory that's created? There's a whole list of things to consider, but probably the two that I would throw out is start with understanding what the end is going to be. So think about how to scale it down, scope it into something that is manageable, that your resources can actually understand, and figure out how to scope it so you know what you're looking for as a result of getting started. What are you actually going to measure as a measurable improvement, if you will? The second piece is engage those folks that are actually going to be the users. We use the term, appropriate or not, pleasant pain in the ass. We look for the operators, the supervisors, who are the ones that they're engaged, but they will challenge you. Because if you can put the process in place and get them engaged in it, then they become sort of the evangelists for you, and other people begin to believe and understand and want to come along behind you as well. So that concept of scoping and then selecting the right people to be able to get engaged in the process are critically important. It's not an IT project. That's the key that people have to take away. Technology is neat, it's whiz bang, it's really cool to see this stuff, and the IT folks will get really excited about it, but at the end of the day, they're not the ones that are using it.
Right.
They're the ones that are implementing it. The people that are actually going to be using it are the ones you want to focus on and engage and have be the evangelist for you going forward.
All right, Scott, that was really interesting. Thank you. Some
Thank
good
you,
insight.
glad to be here.
All right, well, if you'd like more information about Shift Excellence, you can go to hexagonppm.com, and of course, to watch additional episodes, you can visit anytime, hxgnspotlight.com. Thanks, everybody.